Welcome to Whispers from the Vale, a new channel dedicated to tales from the other side. Here we explore the local legends, ghostly encounters and folklore that refuses to fade. These are the stories that linger in the air, on the land, and are in the dark corners of people's memories. We have just getting started here, so there's so much to uncover, so hit the subscribe button and settle in and join us as we dive into the eerie side of Britain's history, starting here in the haunted hills of Surrey. This is the legend of the Silent Pool. Tucked away in the quiet folds of the Surrey hills, just off the A25 near the village of Albury, lies a place where beauty and death dance hand in hand, where history seeps into the water and ghosts are said to arise from the mist. This is the Silent Pool. Spring-fed and strikingly clear, the water reflects a canopy above with an eerie brilliance. On still days, sunlight filters through the trees and dances across the surface, casting strange shapes and shadows that seem to move on their own. It's beautiful. It's hypnotic even, but unsettling, as though the pool is quietly watching you. At first glance it appears idyllic, birds sing in the trees, the surface of the pool lies still and dragonflies trace lazy circles above the reeds. But beneath this calm veneer lingers a story far older and far darker than the landscape reveals. They say the Silent Pool is the most haunted body of water in England, and at its heart lies a tale of Emma, the woodcutter's daughter. The legend begins at the time of kings and power in medieval England, and one summer's day Emma was bathing alone in the cool waters of the pool, surrounded by thick woods and their song and the little bird songs that are going about. But peace would not last. A group of riders approached along the forest path, their cloaks rich with embroidery, the horses well bred and restless beneath them. They laughed and jeered among themselves, clearly men of wealth and privilege. Spotting Emma in the water, one broke away from the group, urged his horse forward, his eyes fixed on her. Frightened, she began to retreat, wading deeper into the pool to keep a distance from the advancing figure. But the rider showed no sign of turning back, driven by entitlement, curiosity, or maybe something darker. She backed further into water, step by step, until the bottom suddenly fell away from her. She vanished beneath the surface. Driver, so the tale goes, made no attempt to help her. Instead, he turned and galloped away into the trees, catching up with his comrades as if nothing happened. When Emma failed to return home, the woodcutter set out to find her. His path led him along the forest, calling her name until he reached the pool. There, floating near the edge, was her lifeless body. Overcome with grief, he cradled her in her arms and looking desperate for answers. And that's when he saw it, caught on a low-hanging branch near the water's edge. A single feather. It was rich, unusual, clearly from a fine hat or ceremonial cap. This certainly didn't belong to the woods, and the woodcutter, a man he knew everyone for miles around, recognised it at once. It belonged to one of the riders, not just any rider though. But this rider would later become King John. The identity of the man had remained hidden until that moment. Now the accusation had form and a face. And the word of Emma's death and the feather reached a young man called Stephen Langton, who then was living nearby in Albury. He too was outraged. Langton later became the Archbishop of Canterbury and one of King John's fiercest political and spiritual opponents. Some say it is this very injustice, this personal tale of this tragedy of a girl lost and a noble unpunished, that kindled Langton's defiance. From that day forward, the pond has never been truly silent. Locals began to whisper of the strange happenings. Each night, they said, at the stroke of midnight, A ghost of Emma would rise from the waters, pale, soaked, and sorrowful. Some saw her floating just above the surface, hair drifting like weeds. Others reported a chilling sound of hoofbeats echoing through the woods, but no horse can be seen. Special rider, perhaps? Perhaps a man who had later become king, doomed to return again to his site of his sin. Some claim to have seen her in heartbreaking stillness, a young, beautiful girl kneeling at the water's edge, or standing waist deep in a pool, weeping silently, her face streaked with tears, her hands over her mouth as though crying out but making no sound. A ghost trapped not in violence but in sorrow. As years passed, the legend grew, and visitors reported cold ghosts or wind on the windless night. Camera batteries died inexplicably, and some claimed to have seen ripples in water and when no one was near. Then came another mystery, this time in 1926. Agatha Christie, the world-famous crime writer, vanished from her home without a trace. A car was discovered abandoned nearby at Newlands Corner, a short walk from the silent pool. The nation was gripped with panic and fear. Search parties combed the countryside, fearing the worst. Many believed she had taken her own life in the same waters that claimed Emma. 10 years later, she was found alive in a hotel in Harrogate, living under an assumed name, suffering from amnesia. The mystery of the disappearance was never fully explained. Coincidence? Maybe? Or did the pool call to her as it called to others before? Today, the silent pool is a quiet place of reflection, yet the stories remain. Visitors come, and drawn by the beauty and the history, maybe the whispers. Some come hoping to see Emma. Others come just to feel something, maybe to just touch the past. But everyone leaves with the same feeling that this place is watching you, that it remembers, and that somewhere, just beneath the surface, the dead do not rest. Here lies the second story in our video. The Ghost of the Grey Woman. The location, York Road Car Park, York Road, Guildford, Surrey. Amid the sound of car engines and the silence of the night, the York Road Car Park in Guildford holds a secret. A sorrowful presence lingers in the shadows of its lower levels. A woman in grey, seen by drivers and night workers alike. She appears silently, then vanishes, just as quick, swallowed up by the concrete gloom. Locals simply know her as the Grey Woman. Her story begins long before the car park was ever built, in a time where the land it now covers was a working quarry carved into the landscape to fuel the development of the local growing market town. It was here that a young Quaker girl lived nearby, a quiet, thoughtful soul, raised under the strict discipline of her faith. But hearts do not follow rules, and she soon fell deeply in love with a local boy who did not share her religion. He loved her too, and he eventually asked for her hand in marriage. But when he approached the father to seek his blessing, he was met with a stern refusal. The boy, he was told, was not of the Quaker way and never be welcome in their family. Desperate and heartbroken, the girl begged her father to reconsider. He remained unmoved, and days and weeks went past, and her grief festered on. And one day, walking through the town, she saw her former love in the company of another woman, laughing and smiling. This sight was too much for her to bear. Without a word, she turned and fled. She made her way back to the quarry, the place where she knew. And there, alone, overwhelmed by grief and despair, she leapt into the void. The quarry was later filled in, and as Guildford grew, it was transformed into what is now the multi-storey York Road car park. But some say the girl's spirit never left. To this day, drivers report glimpses of a figure dressed in grey, drifting through the lower levels, her face pale, her eyes distant. and some feel sudden drops in temperature. Others hear soft footsteps echoing in the dark of the car park. No one ever sees her for long, just enough to know they were not alone. Grey woman walks still, lost in memory, caught in a space between love and heartbreak, a sorrow etched forever into the stone beneath Guildford streets. And this is the third and final story of our video. This is the phantom bus of the A324. The A324 is the main road connecting Purbright to Ash. This is a widely used road, and it's quite busy at some times. But a motorist was travelling towards Purbright at night, driving a convertible along the quiet stretch of this road, claims to have encountered something he can never explain. A phantom double-decker bus that appeared out of nowhere, left no trace and moved without no sound. The witness reported the red bus approaching from the opposite direction. As it drew nearer, he recognised its design. He recognised it as an old-fashioned model, later confirmed to resemble the 1920s Dennis J-type buses that was once used by the Alshorton District Traction Company, which served routes across Surrey and Hampshire. But what struck the driver most was the absence of any sensory response. He said there was no engine noise, no exhaust, no gust of wind. And there was no sound at all, he said. My headlights didn't even reflect off of it. It was like it absorbed the light completely. Intrigued, the driver researched on what he had seen. Photographs from the early 20th century confirmed the model. The route it seemed to follow between Purbright and Ash had indeed been part of the bus's regular service line. But this wasn't the only sighting. Local legends have spoken of a phantom double-decker bus, which still roams this stretch of road, travelling its route along after its passengers and even its drivers are gone. Some say the bus was involved in a tragic accident, while others just think it's a residual echo from the past, a spectral memory left to loop forever. But those who have seen it say one thing with certainty. It was there until it wasn't. It made no noise, it cast no shadow, it gave no warmth, and when it passed, it left behind nothing but questions. Now, if you like these stories, and if you'd like to hear more, please subscribe to the channel and give the video a like, and we'll try to get to more content soon for you guys. So thank you all for listening. Hope you all have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Bye.